Coming up next on the Voice of Alabama Politics, immunity ruling. Also, the emperor has no clothes. And AMCC lawyers throw the commissioners under the bus. Ooh, now that's gonna hurt. All this and much, much more coming up next on The V. Welcome to the Voice of Alabama Politics, where we tackle the tough issues so you have the hard facts. I'm your host, Bill Britt, and as always, I'm joined by Susan Britt, research guru extraordinaire, and Josh Moon, columnist and investigative reporter, coming to us from sunny Florida. How are you, Josh?
I'm doing great. I don't know how y'all are, but I'm fine down here.
We're dealing with humidity, but we'll get through it.
Now, if you see Tommy Tuberville, tell him we said hey.
Say hey from the fans.
Yeah, he's next door. I'll holler at him later.
You know, and the fun just keeps on giving from the Alabama Medical Cannabis Commission. I mean, these guys, if I didn't know better, are smoking their own stash because their lawyers appeared before Judge James Anderson this past week, and at one point said, "Oh no, we've not done anything wrong. It's the commissioners. They won't take our advice, Susan." So they're throwing their own client under the bus.
Well, it seems to be everybody's throwing each other under the bus at this point. You know, they're blaming this on, the lawsuits that are dragging everything down while all they're asking for right now is a TRO, while the AMCC has asked for a stay. I want to remind people about how important this decision is because I think maybe we've lost this in what we've been talking about. These are integrated facilities. These are not just dispensary or this or that. These are integrated facilities. They're responsible for the cultivation, processing, dispensing, transport, and sale. So these are these are a huge group when you're talking about doing that. And what we're looking at, the rules are, the basic rules here are experience in the field, have enough operating capital, facilities ready for production, be able to produce in 60 days, and have criminal performance bond and pass a criminal background check. And this is what they are trying to get around.
And this is what we're arguing over. They're arguing over, Josh, because they're awarding licenses to people that don't pass all that criteria. If they just awarded it to the people who have passed that criteria, we wouldn't be in this mess.
Right. Yeah. Well, if they had written rules to start with that responded to that criteria or met the criteria that was passed by the legislature, we wouldn't be in this mess either. And I think that's a big problem for the attorneys themselves is that, they wrote things that did not necessarily comply with the laws as written, did not comply with the Alabama Administrative Procedures Act. And so that leaves them now defending what the work that they've done previously. And so I think that's a bit of a conflict. But in addition to that, the commission has its own problems. Listen, there's no shortage of things that you can point fingers at here. Okay, the commissioners themselves violated the Open Meetings Act at different times. They tried to hold the meetings in secret and select the folks in secret. There are just a multitude of problems that have gone on with this. And what I can't understand is what I wrote this week after that hearing. Why are they fighting so hard against the recommendations of especially Circuit Court Judge James Anderson to kind of fix this and clean it up and have a process that meets all of the required laws and all of the stipulations? Why are they fighting so hard against that? Well, if they just would do it, it's going to get product in the hand. If these people truly have no interest in what happens other than to have this process that gets medicine in the hands of people who need it, then why wouldn't you just follow what the judge is telling you to do?
And Susan, it as Josh pointed out, it's either incompetence, I mean, gross incompetence, or there's something more nefarious afoot.
I believe it's both. I do believe it's both. I think that the ones that are doing the nefarious things are, kind of bouncing it off the people that are incompetent, who then go on to confuse everybody. And that way it kind of makes it all look kosher when it's really not.
Yeah.
Because otherwise, why are they fighting these depositions so hard?
One of the things that came up in the hearing on Tuesday is that Will Somerville, the attorney for Alabama Always, suggested that Judge Anderson appoint a special master who would then look at the what the companies do and do they meet all the criteria, and then award the licenses based on who meets the criteria that you just read. But Judge Anderson didn't feel there was time for that. Josh, we're 3 years out, and we still have not got a single dose of medical marijuana to anyone. And the way it's going, it's almost impossible to see how we get there.
Yeah, I've heard some of the attorneys say that if we go down this trail of writing, a new set of rules to get this stuff out, it could take up to 8 months longer. And when an attorney tells you 8 months, you can typically think that he meant years. But in honesty, that this is what we're doing. They've got a problem. All right. And anybody that thinks that they don't have a problem has not sat in the court, has not read through the documents, has not looked at what's going on here. And because there's no judge you can put this in front of that's going to tell you that what's happened here is okay under the law.
Right.
And it's just not going to happen.
Because they have violated the laws and they have not followed the laws. So you can't have a legal outcome that won't be challenged by people who are getting screwed by them not following the laws.
They're going to have to appoint some sort of independent counsel or something and take it out of the hands of AMCC. That's obvious. I understand that Judge Anderson doesn't think this is time, but it's going to be time at some point because these people cannot follow the rules.
Yep. Well, I want to get to one last thing real quick. Senator Katie Britt, has appointed Sean Ross as her new deputy chief of staff. Sean served on her campaign as her communications guy, did a fantastic job. He also, Susan, served as her communications director, and now he is moving up to deputy chief of staff.
Very smart decision.
Big step up for him.
Sean's very sharp. He's good at communications. He's actually one of the communications people that will get back to you.
Yeah, he actually communicates.
He actually communicates, so congratulations, Sean.
Yeah, congratulations.
Good job.
Sean. There's also to taking over the communications job that he has moved along from is Amy Hasenberg Elliott. She previously had a role working for James Reich out of Idaho, senator, and we wish her all the best. And feel free to contact us if you want to communicate with us, right?
We're here.
All right. You're watching the voice of Alabama politics. We'll be right back.
My personal biggest pet peeve is kids who are not properly restrained, whether that be in a booster seat, a car seat, or even a simple seatbelt. Kids, they become projectiles, and it's terrifying.
It absolutely breaks my heart to know that something so innocent could be punished so severely.
Your children rely on you to be that person that says, no, you need to put your seatbelt on.
Your home is your most valuable asset. But what if someone tried to steal it from you? Property fraud is one of the fastest growing areas of fraud in the country today.
As a district attorney, I've seen firsthand the devastating effects of property fraud. That's why I'm proud to support the Montgomery County Probate Court's REACT program.
REACT is designed to protect your property and to give you peace of mind. By signing up, you'll receive an email notification if a document is filed against your property.
This program is a game changer. It has the potential to prevent fraud and protect countless homeowners throughout Montgomery County.
So don't wait. Sign up for REACT today and protect your home.
Protect your home with REACT. Sign up today.
Welcome back to the voice of Alabama politics. I tend to read everything I can find when there are important issues on the line, especially in politics. You read, and then you can go watch television, you can go watch Fox, you can go watch CNN, you can go watch MSNBC, watch whatever you want. But I find that reading in the first place, and not on my phone, but actually getting down and reading what's been written, helps out. This past week, the United States Supreme Court in the 6-3 ruling found presidential immunity. And it seems to me, and everyone that I've read that's a scholar on these issues, and I'm not, but that are, that they have stretched the outer bounds of presidential immunity beyond what anyone ever conceived of. I don't think Richard Nixon's lawyers would have ever conceived of such a thing, and he would not have left office. But I do want to point out before we get into this discussion that in the Constitution of the United States, there is no presidential immunity. Now, there is some immunity for Congress under the speech and debate clause. That is in the Constitution. But there is no immunity for the president. That has come about through lawsuits and legal findings by the Supreme Court. So, you would have thought that the founding fathers would have thought of this, and they did. They just could not come to terms with it because they were so terrified of giving a president, any president, kingly authority. If you'll go read the Federalist Papers 69 and 70, which I have, you'll get a better sense of what they were thinking. But they did not want a king. And there's some that have gone so far as to say this does give the president, whether it's Joe Biden or Donald Trump or the next guy, certain kingly type powers.
It does. And at the three in dissent, basically, and Sotomayor put it well when she said she feared for our democracy as a result of this decision. Because I can't see where, if you're doing something on your campaign, that's actually a presidential act, an official act of any kind. But the way this has opened this up, it does include those under immunity, it looks like.
Well, if you're president and you were running for re-election, it does seem to, there's some crossing there, Josh. And the other thing that truly disturbs me is that you can't use official acts that were committed to prove that the unofficial act was the fruit of that act.
Yeah, it's they've made it virtually impossible to prosecute a president.
Right.
I mean, you other than a president essentially murdering somebody in front of a large group of people, they've made it almost impossible. And even that, there's some wiggle room there because it might have been an official act of some sort.
Yeah.
So, I said it in the column, I'll say it again, that I wrote about this. I'll say it again. If you're okay with this, you're moral. Okay? I don't care if it's a Democrat, if it's a Republican, if it's Donald Trump, if it's Joe Biden, if it's Barack Obama, if it's, FDR, anybody. No person in the country should be above the laws of the country. Okay? And let me tell you who agrees with me. Every single one of the 6 jackasses on the Supreme Court who ruled in favor of this. That's who did. They've all said it publicly in their Senate confirmation hearings. They all addressed this question and said no one should be above the law. And now they voted to do exactly that and put him above the law. And all this wiggle room that the folks on the right talk about, where they say, oh, well, this is just in response to the weaponization of the justice system against Trump. It's this ridiculous nonsense. Okay, that's what the system is there for. The legal system is there to work these things out. And if he was innocent, surely one judge or one juror somewhere in all of these cases would have determined that he was innocent of these things.
Well, it's obvious that they lie because they also said that Roe v. Wade was stare decisis. So they obviously lied during their confirmation hearings as it is, so you can't trust them.
Well, and 70% of the country is pretty much convinced you can't trust them either. I want to move on to the other talking point that's out there, and this is a very serious one too, is that we all saw the 90-minute debate between current president, what was his name?
Joe Biden.
I'm joking.
I know.
Joe Biden and Donald Trump. And what I saw was two men who are past their prime, two men that are aging in front of us. Now, Donald Trump looks stronger physically, but if you go back and read the transcripts, he sounds delusional. Now, if you read Biden's transcripts and you watch him, he seems old, tired, and confused. I would submit to both of you that I would not trust either one of them with my car keys or the PIN to their own bank account because they are not responsible enough.
I know that, Trump looked very energetic and all of that, but the things that he was saying didn't make sense. He may have been rattling it off and talking really fast like he does, but the content of what he had to say didn't make sense.
Well, and we've become so used to him raging about certain things that we've become almost inoculated to the outrage. But to see Joe Biden completely come apart on that was sad and humiliating for him. But it also speaks to the fact, Josh, can either one of these people really be president? And would not the Democratic Party benefit, in my opinion, from replacing him with someone who's younger and stronger and at least has a fighting chance to lead the country?
Well, I mean, I think that would have been probably the best decision sometime back, but now I think you've gone to the point where I don't think that's a choice anymore. I mean, maybe they can slide somebody in and get this thing done before the convention, and if they wanted to go that route. But when this still then becomes a comparison of two people, and when we're comparing these two men, I understand that Joe Biden looked his age, 81 years old, and sounded that way at times. But in all of his dementia that he allegedly has, he's never suggested anybody inject bleach into their bodies to rid themselves of a virus, or extended the hurricane map with a Sharpie because he misspoke and included the state that wasn't in the warning. So when you have to look at the comparison of the two people who are in front of you, and while one of those people is clearly aging and is showing his 81 years, the alternative is back guano insane. Okay, I mean, it's just,
well,
you know what I mean.
And that's going to be left up to the voters. I just personally would like to see a more vigorous candidate because I question
on both sides.
Yeah, I question whether either man would be able to make it to the end of his term. Trump would be 83, I guess. Biden would be 85.
Yeah, 85.
Yeah.
So again, I question whether either man will make it to the end of the term. And I just don't think that's best for the country. But anyway, we'll leave it right there. You're watching the voice of Alabama politics.
My personal biggest pet peeve is kids who are not properly restrained, whether that be in a booster seat, a car seat, or even a simple seatbelt. Kids, they become projectiles, and it's terrifying.
It absolutely breaks my heart to know that something so innocent could be punished so severely.
Your children rely on you to be that person that says, no, you need to put your seatbelt on.
125.
As a paramedic, you wouldn't believe the things that we've seen.
I've seen all types of horrible things.
I mean, we're there basically picking up the pieces from your worst day.
Everyone is just driving and not paying attention.
We all have the same goal. All of us want to go home alive and safe and harm nobody else in the process.
Slow down. Be careful. Care about the other people on the road. Don't be the reason that someone else doesn't go home tonight.
Welcome back to the voice of Alabama politics. Susan, as we know of the last couple of years, the latest battleground for the so-called culture wars are public libraries. And in that, people want to remove books from the shelves in the young adult and teens and children's section that have anything to do with sexually explicit content. But what they really mean is anything that has to do with LGBTQ content or gender identity, anything that along those lines they want to see removed. And it has been, the Prattville-Autauga Library has been at the epicenter of this crusade, because you got a lot of right-wing people from Montgomery who actually live in Prattville and in that area, and they have gone in there and stirred up the hornet's nest, and then it spread out with Moms for Liberty and Bisexual Moms for Liberty, which is a subgroup of that. But this has been a thing that has percolated. But now the Prattville Library, which was the ground zero for this, has backed off and said they're not going to do this. And it's mainly because they got sued. And they had to pay the director that they fired $20,000 for firing him. So they're losing in court, and this is where we're at.
I think that's a good thing. I think it's a very good thing, because I mean, it started out as maybe something that was small and blew up into this huge thing where you've got the LGBTQ books you've got, and they're doing it under the guise of, well, it's obscene or sexually explicit. No, most of these aren't, to start with. So maybe with the court cases, that will get their attention, that they need to be more careful about when they're playing with our libraries with their agendas.
I mean,
their political agendas.
Supposedly they're trying to get this federal lawsuit dismissed, Josh. I don't know whether that happens, but they have tentatively changed their policies. Now, one of the women who's with that Clean Up Alabama or Bisexual Moms for Liberty, I just made that up, didn't I? But anyway.
Yeah, you did. Yes, you did.
I had a senior moment. Anyway. They came.
Sorry, what was that, Joe Biden?
They came out and said that they didn't change the policy. They just can't admit it. They can't admit it. Like they can't admit that the only reason they hate these books is because they hate the way the country is going. And they hate the way the country is going because it's leaving them behind.
Well, yeah, I think that some of this comes from politics and some of this comes from straight up ignorance. The ignorance part of it is these people actually believe that if you allow these books in libraries and the kids read the books, it'll turn them gay or transgender.
Yeah.
When what it actually does is helps people, and kids in particular, better understand their friends who are gay and who are transgender, their classmates, their peers, the folks that are around that normally get picked on in school because of this lack of understanding, because their children and their brains haven't developed enough to comprehend that people are different and that the sexual orientations are different, and it's just part of nature. Now, a lot of these people who don't read these books, their brains also never fully develop, and they grow up to be in Moms for Liberty. And so this is where we are right now with this group of people that are chasing down these books and trying to get them out of there. And now the other part of this there's a group of politicians who've taken advantage of it because it's easy to say we're protecting the children from sexual predators.
Yeah.
Why do you want kids to read porn in your library? What I always say is, why the hell aren't you watching your kids back?
Yeah, exactly.
Why stop trying to dictate what we do with our kids and what other kids would like to read and what other parents would like their kids to have access to, and worry about your own kids and go out and be better parents.
Well, and that's one of the things that truly bothers me is, as we, the Alabama legislature has passed this parental bill of rights, which has nothing to do with really being a good parent, but they refuse to acknowledge that it is the parents' responsibility to monitor their kids and to censor what they're saying. If you're, as we pointed out many times, if you're a teenager or your young adult or your child is wandering around the library, helplessly checking out books, which they can't do,
No.
you're just not a good parent. Let's face it.
Last time I checked, librarians' list of duties did not include babysitting.
No.
But that's what they want them to do. They want them to babysit their kids for them.
I mean, is this like back in the 80s when, you know, everybody got dropped off at the mall and stuff? I mean, hey, we're dropping.
I was going to say, yeah, I was going to say, man, I don't know. I'm going to have to disagree with you. I think if you're raising some kids that want to go and hang out at the library and read books about other kids, you're doing a pretty good job as a parent. Maybe you just don't realize.
Yeah, maybe so.
You know, or maybe your kids are growing up pretty good despite
I mean, I did.
you know, I don't know.
I mean, most of us didn't go to a library until we got to college, and we had to go to a library to get the dang book.
Yeah.
And now you really don't have to go to the library, but people use it for a lot of functions, and it's a very positive experience for those who do. But this is,
you know, we go a lot. We go a lot with our daughter.
But you go with her.
Take her to, yeah. So of course, and there are events at libraries for kids, and there's a kids section of books and things, and you know, and so you'll have the kids section, you have the young adult section, you have these other sections that are designed for these kids, and so yeah, there are a lot of times where we spend some time at the library, and those, you know what, the people there are so great. They're so great, and they can help you, and it's a great place for kids to spend time and learn. And the fact that we've done this to libraries is just it's an abomination. Absolutely.
You know, and these people who work in libraries, especially the ones that have gone to university to study library science,
God bless them.
They are people who truly, truly care about what libraries represent and what books mean to the education and future of our country.
Mm-hmm.
I have a feeling if people read more books, there would be a little less ignorance on so many subjects. Because, you know, as we know, we're all born ignorant. We just don't have to choose to stay that way, right?
Yeah, maybe if the Supreme Court would go back and read history, just a little bit.
Well, see, that's the thing, Susan. You have to understand, they pick and choose the history that makes sense to them. I mean,
obviously.
That is how this works. You can't just go and say, hey, this wasn't even in the Constitution. It's been expanded by legal means over the years. And hey, what if Andrew Jackson wanted to actually kill a bunch of people instead of just, you know, like arm wrestling them? I mean, okay, it'd be fine, it'll be fine. Anyway, we're gonna have to leave it right there. You've been watching the voice of Alabama politics. You watch us because we watch them.